Are you stressed about what to cook for the holidays? Don't worry, I got you covered. This will be part 1 out of 4 holiday recipes that will make your life easier. I'll be posting one of these delicious recipes every week. In this video, I'll be making this incredible sweet potato pie. I have here 5 medium-sized sweet potatoes. The total weight is around 1.8 kilograms. This should be good enough for a 28 centimeter oven tray. I washed then brushed each of them lightly with some olive oil, then wrapped them in aluminum foil. These will go in the oven for about an hour at 200 degrees. It might take more or less than that depending on your oven and how big the potatoes are. Check on them every now and then using a fork until the potatoes are cooked and very soft all the way. Then unwrap them and let them roast a little more to give them a little color and caramelization on the outside. Once the potatoes are done, let them cool down and work on the dough unless you like burning your fingers. The dough is the same as the one I used in all these previous recipes. Check them out if you haven't yet. But instead of oil, I'll use some vegan butter or margarine. In a mixing bowl, I'll add 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 40 milliliters of sugar, a pinch of salt, and 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. I'll combine these first before adding 75 grams of vegan butter or margarine. When mixing the butter, you want to turn the mixture into crumbs by breaking the butter into smaller pieces, then covering it with flour and repeat the process till you get this kind of texture. I could have broken the butter into smaller cubes before doing that, but I didn't plan things ahead as you will see in the rest of the video. I basically winged everything and it worked anyway. I'll also add in a tiny amount of nutmeg and mix it well before bringing everything together with some oat milk. I used a little over 3/4 of a cup. Add the milk in slowly until the dough turns into one ball. Then cover it and let it rest for 15 minutes while you heat up the oven to 180 degrees. Now you can start rolling the dough into a circular shape. If the dough is sticky, don't add flour, but instead brush it lightly with some oil. Roll this to about 1/2 centimeter thick or even a little less depending on how thick do you like the crust to be. I prefer it on the thinner side so it's not gooey, especially that the dough will contract while you're moving it to the tray and become a little thicker. Plus it will expand in the oven because of the baking powder. Now I'm moving the dough carefully to the baking tray, which I brushed with some oil first and made sure the dough is snug all around. Then using the rolling pin, I cut the extra edges, pinched as many holes in the crust base as possible using a fork, and used the same beans from the quiche recipe to hold the crust down. I put this in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes. Don't throw the extra edges, of course. You can make mini pies with it. I made this into strips and rolled them in sesame seeds, then put them in the oven while the pie was baking. Once the dough edges start getting a golden color, remove the beans and foil and change the oven heating to be from the top only so the inside of the dough is cooked as well. This should be another 10 or 15 minutes in the oven and then take it out when it starts getting a light brown color. Now we can prepare the filling. I peeled the sweet potatoes in a mixing bowl. Half a potato was used for a taste test, so I ended up with 4.5 only. I mashed these quickly with a fork, and as you can see, the fork goes through them easily. If you're struggling to mash them, then pop them in the oven again to bake all the way through. Then I'm gonna add 200 grams of coconut milk. I'm using this cooking coconut milk and not the coconut drink milk. I first mixed everything to get the cream and water together, then I added it to the sweet potatoes. Then couple teaspoons of sugar, a pinch of nutmeg, and a good amount of cinnamon. Let's say 1.5 teaspoons. You can't really go wrong with cinnamon, so eyeball it like I did. Mix everything well till you get this fluffy texture. Now you can add in the filling. Make sure it's distributed evenly and has an even surface. Then bake it in the oven for 15 to 20 more minutes. At this point you can be lazy and call it a day and just eat the pie as it is once it's out of the oven. Or you can take it to the next level. I decided to add caramel pecan glazing and whipped cream for decoration. And I don't think I'll ever eat a sweet potato pie without it anymore. So in a frying pan, I put about 40 to 50 grams of vegan butter on low heat with some pecan nuts and 2 tablespoons of sugar. Let the butter melt, then stir them around every now and then. And right on time, the pie was ready to get out of the oven. The color of the butter should get slightly darker. At this point I decided to add a spoon of coconut milk to add more flavor to the glazing. After a minute or so, you can take the caramel glazing off the heat and spread it on top of the pie. I made sure the caramel is covering the whole face of the pie by using a brush to move it around. And now comes the ultimate self-control test. You need to let the pie cool down, then chill in the fridge for a couple of hours or overnight. The texture and taste are much better when it's chilled. And if you're planning to decorate it with whipped cream as I'm going to do, then definitely don't do that while it's still hot. I personally chill it overnight so I don't have to think about it while I'm awake. The next morning the pie have sat beautifully and now we're ready to decorate it. Don't feel intimidated by the whipping and piping process. This is actually my first time doing that and it wasn't that hard. It's actually fun to do. You can whisk the cream by hand or use a ready whipped cream, but I found this tool in my food processor, so I decided to use it. There are few brands of vegan whipping cream. I tried using this Oatly vanilla cream, which states that it needs some good whipping, but after about half an hour in the processor, the cream is still runny, so I decided to get a different one. And after running the processor for less than 5 minutes, behold, a whipped cream has emerged. I'll do the flip test as well, and it doesn't drop, so that's great. I got this piping tip thing. I'm assuming it will make a nice star profile, so I cut a tiny piece of a plastic bag and inserted the tip, filled the bag with cream, and it worked as expected. I started piping just like they do in cooking shows, and it's not that complicated. I think I nailed it. Now here's a problem. How do I get the pie out of the tray? I obviously can't flip it. Maybe if I quickly throw it in the air and then catch it with my hand. Okay, I think cutting it first will be the smart option. And here it is. I really think it's worth the wait. The crust is cooked all the way through, the filling is not runny, and the caramel is not crystallized. I decided to pipe more whipped cream on each piece as well. And now it's time to taste it. This is incredible. Not too sweet, the coconut milk is not overpowering, and the caramel and whipped cream are definitely a must. I'm supposed to just take one bite for the sake of filming, but I really couldn't stop eating. If you're not making this after watching this video, then I don't know what are you doing. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Watch the other recipes on the channel while you're eating the sweet potato pie, and I will see you soon in the next video. Thank you for watching.